Okay, reconvening the 1 o'clock AEN hearing. Moving on to the next measure, SB 345, relating to cosmetics. Cosmetics cruelty-free animal testing, prohibition and fines, bans the import for profit, sale, and offer for sale of any cosmetic in the state if the final product or any component of the final product was developed or manufactured using animal testing performed on or after January 1st, 2022. First up to testify is, let's see, the Office of Information, they had comments. We'll go with Monica Engelbretson from the Cruelty Free International. Monica.
Hello. Hi, thank you, committee. On behalf of Cruelty Free International, I'm pleased to support SB 345, the Hawaii Cruelty Free Cosmetics Act. As mentioned, it would prohibit the sale of newly animal tested cosmetics in the state, so it wouldn't impact any current products or ingredients that are on the shelves. It would be forward looking. As you'll notice, the legislation makes exceptions for special safety concerns, drugs used in cosmetics, foreign testing, and other regulatory testing that might come into conflict. We've worked very hard with the industry and stakeholders to reach an agreement on these points that consider the complexities of the cosmetics industry while achieving a primary and shared goal of ensuring that cosmetics are not the cause of new animal testing. Animal tested cosmetics are frequently painful and harmful to the animal, and there are new alternative methods that are better and safer and less expensive than the animal tests they replace. And hundreds of successful companies now use these methods and support globally consistent rules. If Hawaii passes this legislation, it would join California, Illinois, and Nevada, which passed this type of legislation that went into effect in 2020. And it would also join over 40 other countries that now prohibit the sale of new animal tested cosmetics and would help push the United States toward enacting a federal prohibition on this through the Humane Cosmetics Act, which the state legislation has already informed and helped move the US in the right direction. I'm available to answer your questions, but I will stand on that testimony and hope for your support.
Thank you, Monica. And members, we'll take all the testimony and then we'll do the Q&A after all the testifiers. Next, we have Inga Gibson from Pono Advocacy. Inga?
Aloha, Chair Gabbard, members of the committee. Thank you so much. Strong support for SB 345. As you may recall, this bill has come before your committee a few times. It was actually just held up in its last committee last session just due to the pandemic. As Monica stated, this would simply codify and align Hawaii with a number of other countries and states, including the European Union, who have long prohibited the testing and sale of products. The modern testing methods are actually more effective, more efficient, and also less expensive. So this is a win-win for all. Just want to emphasize this does not impact any kind of medical testing. This is just as it applies to cosmetic testing. So I just ask any questions be deferred to our expert, Monica, and also Chair, thank you for noting the tech amendment. It looks like in drafting it appeared it was accidentally moved from chapter 328 to 321. So that is one tech amendment we would appreciate for your consideration. Mahalo nui loa.
Mahalo, Inga. Next, we have Karen Ross with the Personal Care Products Council.
Aloha, Chair Gabbard. Karen Ross is not present in the Zoom meeting.
Okay, so that's it. Any questions, members?
Chair Gabbard?
Yes.
So my question on this particular bill, I actually had questions on the last one, but with the technical difficulty, we didn't do the Q&A. But with this particular bill, I'm curious as to the wording, if it includes online or Amazon sales as part of import, or how does it address online or Amazon sales?
Monica?
So It's beholden on the manufacturer. So like many things, when it comes to online sales, those are difficult to enforce in a lot of ways. So it would have the same challenges that all other types, similar prohibitions have when it comes to online sales, but it is incumbent upon the manufacturer, not the retailer. And we expect there will be high compliance with these requirements because we have accepted those exemptions and because other states are already now implemented it for over a year. But I agree that's the online thing is a difficult thing to address.
Okay. And Monica, I have a question. You had mentioned 40 countries have already passed similar legislation. What are the manufacturers? How are they responding to all of this? Are they basically changing their products and changing how they're doing things?
Yeah. So most cosmetics are reformulations of existing ingredients. So animal testing typically takes place when there's a brand new ingredient. And so the larger companies are the ones that produce innovative ingredients. And what they've been doing is using those modern non-animal testing methods to test those new ingredients to bring to the public. And so that's really what the industry has changed over time. And we really find ourselves aligned in wanting to set a bar. And that's what this legislation does. It sets this industry agreed bar that this is where everybody should be when it comes to animal testing. And we're still moving forward.
I see. Okay. All right. And then Senator Ocasio, did you want to ask we skipped the question on the first item. Did you want to say something about that? You had a question?
So I guess it may or may not be able to be addressed, particularly if you want to answer it. But basically, do we have proof that raising the amount for littering will actually deter littering? And then the other piece to it is if we have data to verify who is currently being cited on the regular, and if a certain group is disproportionately being cited, perhaps that is something to look at in terms of, is it just harmful to that particular group, or is it a much broader citing? I guess my concern then would be that it would further disenfranchise folks if there's a group that's being cited more often. So I don't know if we can have that data, but in terms of finding more research to support it.
Lauren, would you like to make any comments about that? Lauren Zerbel? Okay.
Did we submit on them? No, I don't.
Okay. All right. All right. We'll, and that will come on as the bill moves along, Senator Ocasio. We can address those issues. Yeah, moves on. All right, moving on to the next measure, SB 347, relating to litter control. Let's see here. Balloons. Intentional release. Prohibition. Prohibits the intentional release of balloons inflated with a gas that is lighter than air. And 347. First up is DLNR.
Good afternoon, Chair Gabbard, Vice Chair Nishihara, committee members. My name is David Sakota on behalf of DLNR. We've submitted written testimony. I just wanted to point out that the first line contains an incorrect reference to Senate Bill 2781. It should be Senate Bill 347, but the testimony is in support and we stand on our written testimony. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, David. Next up is Suzanne Frazier with the Beach Environmental Awareness Campaign Hawaii. Beach.
Aloha, Senator Gabbard.
Aloha,
Senator Gabbard, hi, Vice Chair Nishihara and committee members. I'm Suzanne Frazier. I'm a marine debris educator, researcher, and co-founder of Beach, a nonprofit that's in its 15th year of bringing awareness and solutions to plastic marine debris. I'm testifying in very strong support of SB 347. Thank you, Senator Gabbard, for introducing this bill. Balloons are one of the most harmful and deadly types of marine debris, and this is because once an animal ingests it, they can't move the balloon through their digestive system because it's a soft, gooey mess, and the blockage results in eventual death. It's a terrible situation that animals and birds are suffering in this way. what happens is that when balloons are released and they get to about 5 miles into the air, they actually get to a point where the balloon undergoes a process called brittle fracture, where it bursts and creates a tentacle-like appearance. So when these balloons drop back into the ocean, sea animals and birds can mistake the balloons and the ribbons for food such as squid and jellyfish. And the balloons that we've found on beaches have either had this brittle fracture appearance, or they've been this gooey mess that's stuck together with all these other pieces of marine debris and coral and so on. I'd like to point out that over 1,500 people have signed a petition in support of state action on marine debris, including balloon releases. I've included that with my testimony, as well as photos of a recent mass balloon release on Oahu, ironically on World Ocean Day, where over 2,000 balloons were released into the air. There are a couple of other bills on balloons, and they're very much the same. And I'd just like to perhaps suggest, because there's a companion in the House, that the following language is adopted. The legislature further finds that several states, including California, Connecticut, Florida, New Jersey, Tennessee, and Virginia, as well as numerous counties in other states, have prohibited the release of balloons inflated with lighter than air gases. I took that from SB 313 and the companion HB 1102.
Suzanne will have to cut you off, but we will.
That's fine. I'm done. Thank you so much. And I'd also like to say we strongly support SB 582 as well. And I do have Dean here if he's on the list for testifying.
He is on the list, and we will take Dean next. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Gabbard.
Hello, Senator Gabbard.
Hello.
Chair Nishihara. I'm in really strong support of SB 347, which would prohibit the intentional release of balloons inflated with gas that are lighter than air. Basically, balloons are flying trash anywhere it lands. You know, it's pollution. Especially in Hawaii, it's going to really affect our marine life because, you know, we're on an island. It's, you know, balloons just fly, gets in the ocean, you know, and marine life is going to ingest those balloon pieces. Also, the string or the ribbon could be a entanglement hazard as well too. So this is a very good bill. It's very simple. Because we live on an island, I think it's a no-brainer that we should actually, you know, we should have this law passed. And thank you very much, Senator Gabbard.
Okay, members, any questions? And Suzanne and Dean, thank you. Mahalo for all the work that Beach does in our community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are moving on, members, to SB 348 relating to bottled water. It repeals the requirement that non-carbonated bottled water be transported, stored, processed, or bottled through lines or equipment through which only water is passed. First up is Garrett Marrero with the Maui Brewing Company. Garrett, are you here? Turn on your mic.
There we go. Sorry about that. Aloha, Chair Gabbard, Vice Chair Nishihara, and members of the committee. Thank you for taking the time to hear this bill. We are in strong support of SB 348. I believe a world without single-use plastic water bottles is one we should all aspire to live in. Maui Brewing Company is not only Hawaii's largest craft brewery, but America's favorite solar brewery. I bring that up because we have a very strong position in sustainability, and we are not only in support of this bill to help eliminate plastic water bottles, but also in a position to actually do the manufacturing. We've been working with the State Department of Education for schools once they all get back to school, and instead of selling plastic water bottles, be able to have a locally produced can of water. Even the can bodies themselves would be produced here in Hawaii using no plastic whatsoever in any of the manufacturing process. I will, in terms of the testimony itself, I know you have that in front of you, but I would just like to remind that it's really important to point out that Hawaii is the only state in the country that requires bottled or canned water to be filled on dedicated filling lines. The average cost of a filling line to do this is roughly between 3 and 5 million, frankly, for you know, a decent line to do so. But with today's technology, it's unnecessary, and With that, I will stand on the rest of my testimony in interest of time. Aloha.
Mahalo, Garrett. All right, next we have Lauren Zerbel with the HFIA. Lauren?
Thank you, Chair. HFIA is in support of this measure. Many people don't know that many of the canned beverages that we drink here are actually manufactured locally. And the passage of this bill would remove a section of statute, as the previous testifier noticed, that only exists in our state and is really unnecessary. And it would sort of pave the way for our local manufacturers to bottle water here. So we're in support of this measure. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. And next is Joy Shi with the Sierra Club.
Aloha, Chair Gabbard and Vice Chair Nishihara. I'm Joy Lele Shi. Good to see you. I'm chair of Sierra Club's National Marine Team, and on behalf of our over 1 million supporters, the Sierra Club Marine Team strongly supports SB 348. So we strongly support this legislation because it will help us to move away from plastics that end up in the environment. And aluminum is infinitely recyclable without losing its integrity and is an excellent sustainable alternative to plastic. And as Maui Brewing Company stated, we are the only state that doesn't allow us to bottle this water on the same equipment. So all health and safety regulations are already in existence and are ready to be applied. Furthermore, this pandemic has highlighted the vulnerabilities to supply and distribution issues across the world. So Hawaii needs to be able to sustainably bottle its own water rather than relying on imports from the mainland. This measure was also delayed from last year because of this pandemic, but we really believe that this measure is a no-brainer in light of the precedent set by the 49 other states, the economic independence it will bring Hawaii, and also the environmental benefits. So thank you so much for hearing this bill. Please let me know if you have any questions. Mahalo.
Aloha, Joy. Thank you. Okay. Any questions, members? All right. Is there someone from the Department of Health that's observing or here? Okay. I don't see anybody there. All right, let's move on. We'll move on to SB 351 relating to environmental impact statements. It amends the statutory requirement for the Environmental Council to prepare an annual report by January 31st of each year, repeals the requirement that allows for hearing appeals from applicant actions where an environmental impact statement was not accepted by the accepting authority. And let's see, we have Unauna Thune from the Environmental Council testifying.
All right, mahalo, Chair Gabbard. Unauna Thune, I'm the chair of the Environmental Council. Thank you, Chair Gabbard, Vice Chair Nishihara, and members of the committee for hearing this bill today. And, a special thank you to Senator Gabbard for introducing this bill. As Senator Gabbard said, this bill would essentially propose 3 amendments. The 3 points being, deleting the requirement, the mandate for the council to produce an annual report, deleting the requirement that applicants appeal non-acceptance of EISs to the council, and then some cleanup language to delete references to the UH Environmental Center. The council strongly supports this bill. And we stand on our written testimony in support. We also wanted to let this committee know that the council is currently going through a strategic planning process on its own to determine how the council best fits into the state's processes and what functions we would serve best. So we'll go ahead and stand on the rest of our written testimony. And if this committee has any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Anna. All right, and that's it for that. Members, any questions? Okay, I have a question for Unauna. Unauna, the EC did a heavy lift recently on getting the new Chapter 343 admin rules implemented. Things are obviously tough now with OEQC not even having an executive director in place. If we're able to get this bill passed, what do you see as the EC's priorities going forward?
Right, so if we're able to get this bill passed, I think the EC will function much as it does. Now, deleting the annual report, that's something, it is difficult for the council, not only because we don't currently have a director position funded, but also because the Environmental Council itself is not funded. We have a zero budget. Over the past few years in producing the annual report, the way that we actually funded producing it is through donations from existing members, really. For the appeals, now deleting that requirement, it's not something that the council does frequently. The appeal that we heard this past year was the first one, and I would say probably 30 years or ever. There is an instance of one appeal coming to the council previously, but it never went through the full appeal process. So if this bill goes through, the council will function much as it does with rulemaking. Currently, we're looking at completing rulemaking for our procedural rules. Rulemaking for the Chapter 343 rules took about, I want to say 3, maybe a little over 3 years. So that did really chew up a nice chunk of time. We'll continue to work with the agencies, both state and county, on their exemption list. That's a really big function of the council, and we have a few of those come to the council monthly. And also to continue to work with the community through doing informational sessions, forums, and continuing to work on guidance with OEQC. And that's something that's really been a focus for us, topical guidance as well as procedural guidance for the rules.
Great. Thank you, Anana. All right, members, we're moving on to the next measure. SB 502 proposes a constitutional amendment which guarantees individuals the right to a clean and healthy environment, including pure water, clean air, healthy ecosystems, and a stable climate, and to the preservation of the natural, cultural, scenic, and healthful qualities of the environment. Self-executing clarifies that the rights guaranteed may not be diminished by Article 9, Section 9 of the Constitution. And we have testifying John Kawamoto. John? Your mic.
502.
Aloha.
Hawaii has adopted 2 inspirational net zero greenhouse gas emission goals, and efforts are being made to control climate change. Some may think that what we are doing is enough, but the fact is that the consumption of fossil fuels in Hawaii had not declined in the several years before COVID. We must do much more. HB 502 is an innovative approach to ensuring a cleaner environment. It goes a step beyond what Hawaii did in 1978 when the state constitution was amended. Article 11, Section 9 relies on the legislature to pass enforceable environmental laws. HB 502 proposes to create an enforceable individual right that is on par with other fundamental rights and complements and strengthens the environmental rights of the people. The fossil fuel industry and other polluters are running roughshod over the environment and human beings because we rely on a clean environment. Those polluters are paying very little of the true costs of pollution. People are paying for their profits in the form of having to live in a dirtier environment and for the illnesses and disease caused by pollution. This bill, if successful in amending Hawaii's constitution, would allow individuals to bring legal action against polluters. We need to protect the environment for the sake of our children, their children, and their children. For their sake, it is worth striving for a clean and healthy environment. HB 502 does that. Thank you for your kind attention.
Aloha and mahalo, John. Okay, any questions on that measure? Moving on to Senate Bill 580, relating to beaches. It amends the definition of water pollutant as used in Chapter 342D HRS, relating to water pollution to exclude locally sourced sand that meets certain conditions. And first up is DLNR.
Thank you, Chair Gabbard, Vice Chair Nishihara, committee members, Sam Lemo for Suzanne case. We're standing on our written testimony in support.
Go through there.
Thank you, Sam. Next is Rob Walker with the Hawaii Shore and Beach Preservation Association. Aloha, Rob. Your mic, please.
Can you not hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for hearing this bill. Yeah, I'm representing the Hawaii Shore and Beach Preservation Association, and we stand by the written testimony. This nonprofit is made up of coastal professionals, our board of directors specifically, coastal geologists, coastal engineers, coastal planners, all doing work within the state that relate to beaches. This is a really important bill. A lot of projects that would be really beneficial get stalled because of the 401 water quality certification requirement. And in many cases, there just simply it doesn't make any sense to go through the lengthy process of the 401 water quality certification for a simple project that is, just moving sand from one part of the beach to the next. And so this measure would be a good step in the right direction to be able to facilitate those types of projects, which are very important. I'm a coastal engineer, coastal scientist, and been working in the shoreline environment for about 17 years. And this added complexity of regulatory requirements is something that I've not seen. I've worked in other states as well, and I applaud the Department of Health for their great work in protecting the environment and water quality within the state. But this is, in this particular case, it's not warranted to take that level of excess kind of administrative process, which in the end really doesn't have any benefit. So yeah, with that, just be happy to take any questions, and thank you for allowing me the time to speak.
Mahalo, Rob. Okay, members, any questions? Senator Ocasio.
Chair Gabbard, do you know if there's anyone from the Department of Health that could answer a question?
I'm sorry, you're.
Is there anyone with the Department of Health that we could direct a question?
Let's see. DOH, anybody here? I don't think so.
Okay. If not, I just wanted to voice that there are, for example, in Hilo Bay, we have offshore sand that is heavily laden with toxins and heavy metals, including arsenic, et cetera. And so there's concern from our constituency that this would be have a negative environmental impact actually for the movement of sand in situations like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Ocasio. Okay, members, we're moving on to SB 582 relating to the environment. It amends the definition of water pollutant as used in Chapter 342D HRS relating to water pollution to include plastic. And we have Max Phillips from the Center for Biological Diversity.
Aloha mai kako, Chair, Committee.
Hello, Max.
Nice to see your beautiful faces. My name is Max Phillips. I am the Hawaii Director and Staff Attorney for the Center for Biological Diversity. And we are submitting our testimony in strong support of this bill, which would add plastic as a pollutant under HRS. It seems simple enough, right? Just add one word. The only testimony that we've really seen in opposition in this round has been from Department of Health and from the American Chemistry Council. It's you have my testimony, my written testimony in front of you, but I would just like to expound on a few more points. The first is that I was the attorney on the case that was brought to the Environmental Protection Agency regarding Hawaii's list of impaired waters that's required under the Clean Water Act. The center has submitted multiple scientific studies for, I'd say, the past 4 years to Department of Health showing the impacts, the negative impacts on plastic and plastic pollution on our waterways. And Hawaii Department of Health has at every turn ignored that data. We actually just won that case in the federal courts, which said that the Hawaii Department of Health had to look at the data, that the EPA had to consider it. And so if this committee wants any other information on that, I'm happy to answer questions, but we ask that you please pass this bill forward so that we can continue to protect our nearshore resources to the best of our abilities.
Mahalo. Okay, members, are there any questions? Okay, we have 24 testifiers in support and 2 opposed. And we'll move on to the final measure on today's agenda, SB 777, criminal destruction of trees. This establishes a criminal statute for the criminal destruction of a tree on state or county property, punishable as a misdemeanor. And testifying, we have DLNR.
Yeah, hello, this is David Smith. I'm the administrator with the Division of Forestry and Wildlife, and we submitted written testimony. We'll stand on that. And if you have any questions, myself and Heather McMillan, our urban and community forester, is on hand to answer questions. So appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, David. Members, any questions on this measure? Okay, if not, then what we'll do is go into our decision-making recess.
Okay, Senator Gabbard, are you ready?
Sure.
Okay, folks, we are reconvening the 1 o'clock AEN hearing. The following measures we've conferred and here's the decisions we have made on SB 232. The chair's recommendation will be to pass SB 232 as is. Members, any comments or questions? Okay, so I'll be taking the vote. Chair votes aye. Vice Chair Nishihara? Clarence, you there? Clarence?
Okay, I'm clear. Okay.
Okay,
Aye.
you're good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Senator Ocasio?
Oh, Ole.
Senator Rhodes?
Aye.
Senator Favela? Excused. The measure passes.
Aye.
Oh, there he is. Thank you, Senator Favela. Then moving on to the next one, SB 345 relating to cosmetics. The chair's recommendation will be to pass SB 345 with amendments. Pro bono advocacy's testimony on page 2, line 18, will add the new section under chapter 328 instead of chapter 321. There's a technical error that needed to be corrected. Chapter 328 is a section of HRS that deals with cosmetics. And plus, if there's any tech amendments, any comments or questions, I'll take the vote. Chair votes aye. Senator Nishihara?
Aye.
Senator Ocasio?
Aye.
Senator Rhodes?
Aye.
Senator Favela?
Aye.
Thank you, members. The measure passes. Moving on to SB 347, relating to litter control of the release of balloons inflated with a gas that is lighter than air. Chair's recommendation will be to pass SB 347 with an amendment. Will include the following sentence from a similar measure, SB 313, that was introduced by Senator Rhodes, and I quote, "The legislature further finds that several states, including California, Connecticut, Florida, New Jersey, Tennessee, and Virginia, as well as numerous counties in other states, have prohibited the release of balloons inflated with lighter than air gases," unquote. Any comments or questions? Okay. Chair votes aye. Senator Nishihara?
I'll go aye.
Senator Ocasio?
Aye.
Senator Rhodes?
Aye.
Senator Favela? Senator Favela?
Aye.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, members. Measure passes. SB 348, relating to bottled water, repealing the requirement that non-carbonated bottled water be transported, stored, processed, or bottled through lines or equipment through which only water is passed. Members, this bill would amend an archaic law. It makes it very difficult for local companies to bottle water. Bottling water with aluminum cans would be a good step in reducing our plastic use. So the chair's recommendation would be to pass SB 348 with the following amendments suggested by Department of Health to update HRS 328D-2 to reflect current FDA rules regarding product quality standards for bottled water found in 21 CFR 165-110. We'll insert a new section into the bill on page 2 above section 2, line 12. Section 328D-2 is amended by amending subsection A to update the CPR, that's the code of CFR, the Code of Federal Regulations, citation 21 CFR 14-165-110, and striking out the following language, quote, except that the total dissolved solids limitation of section 103-35D shall not apply to mineral water, unquote, as well as tech amendments. So I'll take the vote now. Chair votes aye. Senator Nishihara,
Aye.
Senator Ocasio,
Aye.
Senator Rhodes,
Aye.
Senator Favela.
Aye.
Thank you, members. Moving on to SB 351, having to do with the Environmental Council, Environmental Impact Statements Appeals. The chair's recommendation is to pass SB 351 with tech amendments. Any questions or comments? Chair votes aye. Senator Nishihara.
Aye.
Senator Ocasio.
Aye.
Senator Rhodes.
Aye.
Senator Favela.
Aye.
Thank you, members. And moving on to SB 502, proposing an amendment to Article 1 of the Constitution of the State of Hawaii to guarantee all individuals the right to have a clean and healthy environment. Members, this bill would amend our state constitution to guarantee all individuals the right to have a clean and healthy environment. This was a movement started by Maya Van Rossum of the Delaware Riverkeeper Network, who assisted in this bill's drafting. Likening rights of religious expression and speech to those of clean air, water, and a stable climate, these green amendments serve to emphasize environmental health and safety as being a part of our basic civil liberties. So the chair's recommendation will be to pass SB 502 with an amendment suggested by the Hawaii Reef and Ocean Coalition to delete the following wording on page 2, lines 3 to 5, quote, may not be diminished through the interpretation or implementation of Article 11, Section 9, unquote. And this language is unnecessary for the purposes of this constitutional amendment. Questions or comments? I'll take the vote. Chair votes aye. Senator Nishihara.
Aye.
Senator Ocasio.
Aye.
Senator Rhodes.
Aye.
Senator Favela.
Aye.
The measure passes. Thank you, members. Moving on to SB 580 relating to beaches, amending the definition of water pollutant as used in Chapter 342D HRS relating to water pollution to exclude locally sourced sand that meets certain conditions. So members, based on the legal concerns raised by the AG and the Department of Health, we're going to defer SB 580 indefinitely. As noted in the DOH's testimony, there's another bill, SB 367, which proposes to eliminate the requirement for a Section 401 water quality certification for any applicant that has received notice of authorization to proceed from the Department of Land and Natural Resources, Office of Conservation and Coastal Lands under the Small Scale Beach Restoration Program. So that bill would address the concerns that SB 580 seeks to resolve. So, and as I said earlier, that bill has been referred to Waterland AEN and will hopefully get a hearing. So I'll take the vote. Chair votes aye. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. We deferred that one, right? All right. So let's move on to SB 582 relating to the environment, amends the definition of water pollutant as used in Chapter 342D HRS relating to water pollution to include plastic. Members, anything we can do to put more focus on the reduction of plastic in our oceans is a positive step in our state policy. So the chair's recommendation will be to pass SB 582 with tech amendments. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, the chair votes aye. Senator Nishihara.
Aye.
Senator Ocasio.
Aye.
Senator Rhodes.
Aye.
Senator Favela. Senator Favela? Senator Favela is excused. No, he's back. Senator Favela.
Push the wrong button. Aye.
Thank you very much. All right. And then the final measure on today's agenda, SB 777, establishing a criminal statute for the criminal destruction of a tree on state or county property punishable as a misdemeanor. The chair's recommendation will be to pass SB 777 with tech amendments. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, chair votes aye. Senator Nishihara?
Aye.
Senator Ocasio?
Aye.
Senator Rhodes?
Aye.
Senator Favela?
Aye.
Okay, measure passes, and that concludes the 1 o'clock AEN hearing. Thank you very much, members, for your participation and for the public. Aloha.